I believe in you more than I've ever believed in myself.
Why?
Because you're the bear.
Hey guys, today we're going to be breaking down the finale of The Bear Season 4 and what that means for the show, the characters, and of course, SydCarmy. And this whole thing isn't scripted, it's my live reaction and analysis of the scenes, so just go with the flow. Think of this video like a podcast, so if y'all got to do your laundry or something, just go ahead and do that. Also, the clips of the finale are going to be fuzzed up like a VHS tape because of copyright, so if you have shitty eyesight, you'll enjoy this more. Okay, enjoy!
Are you autistic? Do you have hyperfixations? Are you not literally autistic, but you're spiritually autistic? Well, you have come to the right place. So Ryland Studios is the place to be if you are autistic and you love movies and TV shows. Okay, bye, subscribe.
Okay, so essentially, with any artist, they are going to be pulling from their life experiences, from pain or joy or whatever in order to create. You know, when you start off painting, that's what you're going to pull from. When you're songwriting, Carmy has lost inspiration for his art, which is his cooking. It's an art form. Sydney is kind of at the beginning of her career, and this is like, you know, her peak so far. This is the most she's ever accomplished in her cooking career. She's a lot younger than Carmy. She's maybe mid-20s. She can't be older than 27? Carmy's like 30 or something like that, right? So he's kind of at a point where he's just flatlining. He's not going up, he's going down. Even though technically career-wise, this is a huge win for him. It's his first restaurant that he owns and he's operating. It doesn't feel that way because mentally, physically, emotionally, he is at a standstill. And so because he feels so terrible right now, his inspiration and creativity can't outweigh how he's feeling. Whereas with Sydney, she's not really at that point yet where she's completely burnt out. And so her creativity and her drive and her ambition are outweighing how she feels inside, and so she's able to push through, but he's not, and that's why he's flatlining, and he's just done, and the only way he knows how to handle it is just to kind of put it all on her, and he's maybe thinking, you're better off without me, this is a gift, without him really realizing that giving her this entire restaurant is a huge burden, and it's not a gift. And he isn't really thinking clearly because he's obviously thought about this a lot, but at the same time, this is a very rash decision. And they're not really having a sit-down conversation with everyone. He's just putting it all on her instead of talking to his sister and his cousin first. What's kind of funny is, she's smoking because it's kind of the same thing as being like, oh, I need a drink. But Carmy is the one who smokes, right? So she's kind of mirroring him. Subconsciously. I don't know if that's intentional or not. And also, looking back, I don't really think she was ever intending to leave and go with guy with the glasses. And I already made a bunch of notes like this, but the way they're talking over each other, this is like a lover's quarrel. Like, that's how I would classify it if this was like a Shakespearean play. Whoa. Okay, actually, this is such a great point that I just want to pause on here. So there's 24 minutes left of the episode. This is the shortest episode, I think, in the entire 4th season. It's only 33 minutes. So we're only 6 plus 3? We're only 9 minutes in. And Sydney just said, I'm sorry for everything that happened with your family and stuff and everything that happened to you. And Carmy's trying to backtrack and be like, no, this has nothing to do with my family, because everything he's done in his cooking career has been to get away from his family, to separate himself from that entire entity, which is really just a circus. That is how I would classify his family. It's not an entity, and it is a full-on circus. And so for her to say that is triggering to him, to say like, oh, this is about your family, because that's the root and the core of all of his pain, right? And all of his issues and his anxiety and all these clinical things that are going on in his brain and stuff, and the reason he has to take medication. which we've gone over in previous videos. I already analyzed that. But so her saying this to him is extremely triggering. She says, that's the whole elephant in the room. That's the whole elephant in the restaurant, man. And this is a great point because, we know from Carmy's perspective that this entire endeavor and this entire pursuit has been about his brother, which I've also already talked about. But from now we're getting an outside perspective. We're zooming out of Carmy because he's the main character, right? That's the main character syndrome. We've been in tunnel vision. But now that we're seeing it from her perspective too, and other people, we're zooming out. These are people that just work at a restaurant.
I don't know, I just work here.
We're seeing Carmy's life, which is just cooking because we know he doesn't have a girlfriend. We know he doesn't have any kids, yada, yada, right? The other people that work there have families, and Carmy is a family too, but the only person he really talks to is his sister. And I've already analyzed in a previous video, he didn't even go to see her baby, and he didn't even see the baby until she brought her child physically into the restaurant. So he's not hyper involved with his family. The only really reason, which I've already said, the only really reason he's even talking to Sugar is because she works with him very closely. And so the only people he's really close to in his family are his sister and Richie, who's not even his blood-related family. And also, Richie works in the restaurant. That's the only reason he sees Richie every single day. So Carmy, out of everyone who works there, out of Ibra, Tina, Fack brothers, everybody who works in the restaurant, Sydney, he is the farthest removed from his family, which is fine. But that just goes to show that this whole cooking thing has been his entire life, and he just can't do it anymore because he has no life, and he needs to leave the restaurant and get one. He needs to get a life. And so that's why he's running away from this, and he's just dropping a huge bomb on Sydney instead of reorienting his life. He's kind of just trying to do let me go live in the mountains and become a monk. And he's trying to do a one or the other. He's trying to do it's all or nothing. And his all or nothing is I either, break my back for this restaurant, or I just completely leave it and throw it on to somebody else, which is obviously not the right way to go about this. But these few lines at the 24-minute mark are really interesting because she's saying that's been the whole elephant in the room, man. And so this entire time, it's like Mikey's soul and all of that baggage that comes with it has just been dragging the restaurant along. And Carmy has been allowing that because he is the captain of the ship. He's the director of this place. And he is the boss. And he is setting a horrible example for all of the people around him by making this whole endeavor and this whole pursuit of fixing up the restaurant about his brother, and not in a healthy way. And I think it's because his brother was not a healthy person. I think if his brother was a great person who just happened to die, which happens to a lot of people, and that's part of life, then he would be doing this in his honor. But instead, it's like he's trying to save him a second time, and he's failing miserably. And so anyways, I'll say more on that. Okay, so now we're at there's 23 minutes left, so it's been 1 minute. And what is his name? Carmen, he says something like, that's why I have to leave the restaurant, so I'm not like this anymore. Because she's saying, you're a shit show, man. And then she says, how? And at first, as the audience member, you're like, what do you mean how? He's obviously going to go to therapy, and he's going to walk in the park, and he's going to do that whole, green juice mantra shit, right? But then it's kind of like, you know what, that's a valid question. Because if you really think about the reason she's asking that is because since the first day she met this man, he has been complete chaos. Complete chaos all the way through. All these 4 years. Think about it, 4 seasons. I don't really think it's supposed to be 4 years. I think it's 2 years or something. I'm trying to think actually about the timeline. Someone will have to comment on the timeline because I don't really know. But it's definitely not a season by year type thing like in ER or Shameless or whatever. It's definitely has not been more than 2 years. But regardless of all of that, since the very first episode she met him, it has been complete chaos and lack of order, which is why she quit in the first season for a hot second. The third episode, she tries to quit. And so she's just asking Carmy, how are you going to change when this, all of your mental health struggles that you're sort of conveying to me now, that is all I know you as. Carmy's clinical anxiety, I classify it as clinical just because it's it's not a normal anxiety. It's a pretty dramatic anxiety, but I'm not trying to say that he was born with that or anything. It's 100% situational. So I don't even know if I can really say clinical, but I'll just say his level of anxiety and all of the issues with his brain, that has become his identity, whether or not he likes that. Like, okay, for a person like Richie, he has a lot of issues, personal issues, but he also has a personality. And his personality, even though he was a pretty angry guy in the first few seasons, his personality, I mean, Richie, had a 180 type thing, but his personality always outshined his personal struggles. So even though you could see clearly from the dialogue and, the scenes that Richie had issues, you could still see that he was, a decent guy. And his personality always outshined his struggles. Carmy's personality has never outshined his mental health issues. His mental health issues have always been at the forefront. That is how you see him when you meet him. I mean, you know what I mean? He can kind of mask it, and that makes him look boring, So when he's not, being himself, which he's always pretty much been himself around his coworkers, because they're not just coworkers, they're a family, and he's known a lot of these people his whole life. He's pretty much 100% of the time just tweaking out. And so she's kind of just like, how are you going to fix yourself? So anyways, we'll come back to that. Okay, so now I'm getting live reaction at the part, because I haven't seen this episode in 6 months, right? Whenever this show came out, that's the last time I saw this episode. So now he says, Syd, you're everything I'm never going to be. So I've already made a lot of notes on this, so I will just put this somewhere else. But this is when it gets to the whole, I think he's secretly, Okay, I think I already said this in my main video about them that did kind of well. That I think that his mental health struggles are preventing him from recognizing the fact that he has romantic feelings for her. But honestly, I won't even get into that, because right now I kind of just want to analyze the episode, because this is probably the best one out of the 4th season, but I don't even know what to say. I'm not going to get into all of the lines, but I do think there's so many parallels to these lines and romance movies like The Notebook and whatnot, and the way they say them, especially the way that Jeremy Allen says them, it 100% reads like a romance movie, like a dramatic romance movie, not even a rom-com. But before that, she's sort of like, of course I want you to, help yourself. #BetterHelp. She's like, oh, of course I want you to, go do that therapy, dog, right? And then he's like, Carmy's like, you're really good, And then he's like, I smoke. That guy with the glasses. I'm better than him. And he's like, but so are you. And she's like, F off. What are you saying? Because here's the comment I want to make. Sydney Adamau, she is not at the level yet, career-wise, where she is ready to take on an entire restaurant. She is a very talented chef, and she has a very good heart, and even though she has come a long way wisdom wise since her catering days, she is not at the level yet where she can be fully operating and running a restaurant herself. She is just not at that level whatsoever, which is why they were partners, because Sydney balanced out Carmy and helped him stay level-headed. And then Carmy brought the experience that Sydney lacks. And she just does not have enough experience to be running a restaurant. It's the same thing with the glasses man. She was not going to be owning the restaurant. She was going to be his partner, and he was going to handle the business administration stuff and the big dog stuff. And then she was going to come with her creativity, because that was something that glasses man was lacking. She's basically, here's the best way I can put it. She's like an intern at a hospital. So for everyone who's seen The Pit, she is essentially Santos, right? And then Carmy is like Langdon, right? He's not Robbie level experienced, but essentially, well, yes. Comment your favorite vocal stem from The Bear. Sydney is not at that level. So to be putting her in this position is just cruel and not okay. And we already know that Sydney struggles with her anxiety. She had that panic attack. And I'm not saying having one panic attack means that you have anxiety, but we know that she kind of mirrors Carmy a little bit when it comes to that anxiety stuff. I mean, he's definitely always going to have that main title. He's always going to be the king of #anxious king. But, she's anxious daughter. She's thought daughter. And so, okay, I don't know where I'm going with this. But okay, this is a very important note I'm about to make. Okay, so Carm Parm, That's our nickname for him if you're new here. He just said, I believed in you. Okay, I'm messing it up. I believe in you more than I've ever believed in myself. Okay, we've already gone over this. Sydney says back, what? And then he's like, yeah. And then she's like, why? And then he pauses, and I'm going to fill in the pause, what I think he's really thinking about. And then he says, because you're the bear. Girl, it's starting to sound like Claire. Now, let me go and just go on a side tangent about Claire. No one told me that this actress was like hashtag main side character in Animal Kingdom. Why did no one tell me this? The only reason I even know about Animal Kingdom is because I saw Sean Hattasey in The Pit, because that one got a lot of attention, that show. So why are we not talking about Claire was in Animal Kingdom this whole time snorting coke? Why did no one tell me this, that girl had ball? Because I like this actress. I mean, I never disliked her. Okay, we're going off the side tangent. We're getting back onto the SydCarmy train. Okay, the train is rolling. I'm in the sidecar. I'm jumping off. Okay, she says, why? Now let's circle back to his question, or his comment. His comment was, I believe in you more than I've ever believed in myself, which is an insane statement. But the only reason, and I'm going to emphasize this, the only reason you would ever say that to someone, or the only reason that you would have more faith in another person than in yourself, is because you love them, right? We don't, put more faith in other people than ourselves when we just like them. No, that is not the truth. The only reason we do that is because we love people. The only reason that we extend our hand like that in our hearts is because we love people. So he is essentially saying, because she says, why? The answer is not because you're the bear. The answer is because I love you. And you can interpret that romantic or not. It doesn't really matter. No matter what, this is a little bit deeper than friendship. I don't care what anyone says, okay? So whether or not, you want to argue if they're romantic or not, whether or not you're over romantic or you're not into romance, and that's kind of why you just prefer platonic, regardless, you have to admit that he loves her. In whichever way you want to see it as, because that is your opinion, and they have not made any of that explicit, even though I think this finale episode makes it kind of explicit, but you can decide to read into the subtext however you want. Okay, it's the same kind of people who want to argue that Neil Perry and Todd Anderson were in love in Dead Poet Society, and then other people are like, what are you talking about? It's the same thing. You can go ahead and interpret things however you want. Okay, that's the beauty of media. But at the end of the day, him saying because you're the bear is also him saying because I love you. Because the whole heart of the bear
is Mikey. And the bear is we're going to kind of get a little bit Gregory House up in here. The bear is getting philosophical, okay? The bear is essentially a manifestation of, how do I say this? The bear is a manifestation of drive, hope, and perseverance. The bear is strength, but not in that WWE way, but sort of like an inner strength. Not peace, but a fight, okay? The bear is ambition and drive. And so I will sort of simplify it by classifying that the bear is the spirit of being driven and drive at its most beautiful and loving in its heart. So the bear is someone who has an intense amount of drive and heart and strength of morale and character. Okay, someone with high morals who has a high sense of drive and is going to be the captain of the ship. Okay, right? Because Mikey's line is like, let it rip, which essentially means just go, dude. We're F1. Just go. Do it. You're the man. You're the king of the hill. You've got this. That's what let it rip means, right? It's sort of, I don't know why I keep talking about the pit. Maybe we'll have to make a whole video about that. So go ahead and comment. No, Wiley. Anyways, it's the same thing as saying you rock that shit down here tonight. And if you know that line, you know that line. Okay? I don't need to say it twice. And so, yeah. So that's what, because Claire says the same line. Because you're the bear. We've already been over that. That cringe little line. Okay? Don't even get me started on Claire. I'm going to go on a whole nother tangent, right? But I made my peace with Claire. So I don't want to hear anyone in the comments saying how they hate Claire because I made my peace with her. Okay? We like her now. But basically, Carmy is the bear. Mikey was sort of the bear. Now we're saying that Sydney's the bear. So the question is, what the hell is the bear?
And I think the bear is whoever has the most drive and passion. And that passion doesn't even have to be about cooking. It just has to mean that you're going to be the leader of the ship and you're going to have the highest morals and you're going to hold everyone else to a higher standard and you're going to be the best dude out there. okay? And so now apparently Sydney's the bear. And him saying because you're the bear is like him giving her the crown and saying and knighting her and being like, you are worthy because I love you and you exude love and you are now worthy of that title of being the bear. That's not a light thing he's saying. I mean, it's kind of a dumb line to say because you're the bear. It's kind of goofy thing to say. But, you know, to him and his brother, that meant something, apparently. We still don't even really know what that means. I mean, I just tried to explain it best I could. But, like, as far as, like, the amount of scenes between Carmen and his brother, a.k.a., I can't... Oh, damn it. Okay, fam, I got interrupted. So now we're at about the 20-minute mark. And this is when the entire episode... And by the way, people were like, okay, where's the rest of the videos analyzing the rest of the season? Baby, we're not doing all that. Okay, baby, we're doing college apps. So you're going to have to bear with... Ooh, did you see how I slid that in there accidentally? You're going to have to bear with me now. It's okay, I give you permission to shoot me. But, so moving on. At the 20-minute mark of the finale, which we've been talking about, Richie comes in. And at this point, Carmy and Sydney are highly emotional, especially Sydney. But because she's started to get really, really emotional, Carmy's getting really, really emotional because he doesn't like hurting people. It makes him feel really, really bad about himself. So they're both highly emotional. They're yelling at each other. And then Rishi hears them because now they're getting louder and louder. And he goes, yo, what the F is going on?
What the fuck are you two shouting about?
He's leaving.
All right, great. Clean up without his ass.
He's fucking quitting the restaurant.
At this point now in the 20-minute mark, Richie entering the scene has now changed the entire atmosphere. Okay? So now they can, so now they go quiet. And I think it's really interesting. Sydney is turned around and she goes, he's leaving. And she's telling Richie, like, Carmy's quitting the restaurant. And she's still, upset and on the verge of tears and stuff. And Carmy is just kind of like silent. And, he looks at Richie and then sort of looks back at Carmy and he goes, I'm retiring, right? Which is sort of comical, but whatever. So Carmy looks at Richie, tells him, I'm retiring. But it takes him around 5 seconds to respond to that. And it's so interesting because when he's with Sydney, it's kind of so easy for him to just put all his feelings out there. It's very easy for Carmy to say whatever's on his mind and just kind of lay it all out there. But then once Richie enters the scene, it's sort of like he's like, oh shit. Like, I am leaving. And he's not really standing 10 toes down on it. Suddenly, Carmy's a little bit... There's a twinge of a sort of shame/embarrassment to it. Because now there's like a third witness to what he's doing. Now we're getting even more into the nitty-gritty. Nacho Libre. If you know ball, you remember Nacho Libre.
In your face. It's just like, hey, girl, shut the fuck up. I ain't gotta explain shit to you.
I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Anyways, Sydney says when okay, we're like at like 17 minutes left in the episode. At around 15 minutes, Carm Parm and Richie Bitchy. It's a good nickname for him. Oh my gosh, why didn't I come up with that earlier? But anyways, Carm Parm and Richie Bitchy, they're going at each other. I mean, at this point, they're headbutting. So if you're doing a follow through with me, if you got that whole split screen going on, I don't even think Hulu split screens. Also, who's going to mention the fact that Hulu is now in Disney Plus? Disgusting. I hate that. I hate Disney Plus, but that's besides the point. If you're doing a little split screen right now on your laptop or whatever, right? They're headbutting right now. But 2 minutes before this, they're fighting. And Sydney, I'm trying to go through this fast because I'm always going on tangents. Sydney goes, okay, I think I'm just going to leave the room. I mean, she doesn't say that, but she's like, okay, guys, I'm just going to go back inside. And then Richie's like, no, just please stay for a minute. For a minute. This is the Berzatos you're talking about. These are the facts. These are all these crazy, crazy white people. What I tell you all, crazy white people, crazy white people. It's really interesting that Richie tells Sydney to stay, which is essentially him saying, no, you're family now. And you're going to listen to all of our shit. And you're going to listen and you're going to be deep in it. You're going to be stepping in it. Okay? So now he's putting her in a really awkward position because now that they're headbutting, she's having to break up their fight. I mean, they're not physically fighting, but she's now having to destabilize the situation, calm him down now. And now he's putting her in a position where she's essentially like a sugar. How did I not think about this earlier? I didn't think about this the first time I watched this episode. Richie is essentially putting Sydney in the position of Sugar. If you don't know, Sugar is Carmen's older sister. I messed that up a lot of times. He's the youngest. Anyways, Sugar has always been that sort of middle child. Well, she's not the middle child. Whatever. No, she is the middle child. Perfect for my point. She has always been that middle child that is just neutral on everyone. Like you see this if you guys remember Seven Fishes. If you know Ball and you remember Seven Fishes, everyone's fighting and Sugar is just like, what is happening? And then people are yelling at her even though she's not even doing anything. So it's like now Sydney is being put in the position of a sort of Natalie Brusato archetype where she has to just be in the middle of all of these men arguing around her, and she's trying to destabilize it. And that's not fair because she is not their family. I mean, yes, the bear is a family, okay? And like, does she need to sort of be involved in the drama because it has a lot to do with her? Yes. I would never say that she shouldn't be involved in the drama. Because this is just the facts of the situation. You know, Sydney, like realistically, as, you know, someone who's working here as a coworker, as an employee, I was an employee and I was going to be employee of the month. As an employee, she should not be put in this situation. This is highly unprofessional. This is not okay. But we're just going to continue on as I keep watching. Okay, so I just switched over to my mic, which is kind of dumb because I've been recording this whole thing with no mic. And honestly, the audio is not that bad. People used to listen to things on VHS tapes and camcorders, and no one was complaining about the audio, and you're just too used to that. This is Screen Rant. And back to, okay, this is not Mr. Beast. Okay, we are not using the $400 mics. So if you don't like the audio, go listen to nature. Okay, I don't care. So this is something I really, really want to get into. So as I was trying to explain earlier when I was talking about the Zuck and stuff, this is sort of turning into a huge review of the finale, and we're sort of segueing away from SydCarmy because now that Richie's entered the scene, he has essentially killed romance. So now we're just going to sort of talk about what's going on in this episode, and there's only about 15 minutes left. But at the 16-minute mark now, Richie Bitchy, as we're now calling him, he is just Carm Parm revealed that he was at Mikey's funeral, his brother's funeral, but he just went in for a second and he didn't say hi to anybody, okay? Richie is like, yeah, well, dude, you know what? It was hard for everyone. And he's essentially sort of like, you know, being a little bit mean, and he's like, and you know what? That's okay because this hits a nerve, okay? This is his best friend. This is his brother. He loved Michael probably more than anyone else. I'm not trying to say that he loved him more than his own family, but I'm just saying like this was his man. Not in that way. Okay, not in that way, but you know what I mean. And so essentially, here's what I want to say on this. And I would never, you know, make someone feel bad for not being able to go into a funeral, especially their own families, because you know what? Everyone navigates grief differently, and that is really hard. And I actually just recently went to a funeral, but it was not, I mean, it was a close family member, but it wasn't someone I saw every single day. It was not a sibling. So, you know, to sort of just be like, well, you should have been at the funeral. Well, I mean, his whole family was there that traumatized him. You know, his brother didn't die, you know, naturally. He didn't die of old age. It wasn't a freak accident. You know, it was intentional. I can't say that on YouTube. He did pull a secretariat. If you've seen BoJack Horseman, you know Ball. But I'll be a little more obvious and say that he pulled a Kurt Cobain. You should not make someone feel bad because they weren't at their family member's funeral. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do think it's good to go, even if it's going to be hard, just because it's the honorable thing to do. But I don't think it's bad if you don't either, you know, because you know what? They're dead regardless. Okay. And the whole point of a funeral is to give people some sort of closure, and it's to honor that person because they passed on. So it's for the person who's passed on, but it's mainly for the family and all of their friends and loved ones so that they can, I mean, does a funeral give you closure? No, especially because it's usually like a week or 3 weeks after the death. But that's the whole purpose of it. And I don't think it's okay for Richie to make Carmy Parmesan feel bad about this. Ebon Macabar, I don't know this man's name, but I know his first name's Ebon. Ebon? Is that really his name? We're gonna have to Google this. Holy crapoli.
Oh, perfect. I have the cast right here. Okay, autism hyperfixation the bear. John Bernthal, we just found his name. Anyways, hey, where's Ebon? He's not even listed in the top, like, 7 people. They literally listed Claire before. That's crazy. That's messed up. Okay, his name is Ebon Moss Backrock. I was close when I said Macabara.
He just made this crazy facial expression. It wasn't even crazy, but it was just so real. And I was like, wow, very realistic. Just the look in his eyes, phenomenal acting. Anyways, so Carmy just said, see, I just talked so long I forgot what just happened. Let me go back. I have it up on my Disney Plus because unfortunately I've been subjugated to watching this show on Disney Plus, the worst streaming platform of all time. It's like the Walmart of streaming platforms. It has the worst interface ever. Oh, okay. Anyways, Richie's being kind of patient. Richie Bitchy is kind of being really sweet here. He's kind of being a little sweetie pie. But anyway, so he's saying like, how, what did you realize when you came back? And then Carm Parm goes, I didn't realize how you lost somebody too. And they're referring to his brother that died. They're referring to Mikey Borsato. So he says, I didn't realize how you lost somebody too. And this is a perfect example. Is my thing still recording? Yeah. This is a perfect example of the tunnel vision that you get not only when you're grieving and you've just lost someone to Kurt Cobainism, not only the tunnel vision that you get from a death, no, my iPad's on 10%, whatever. Not only the tunnel vision that you get from grief, but also the tunnel vision that you get from having, I can't remember the word, but intense levels of anxiety coursing through your blood, essentially. The neurological damage from anxiety. Here's the thing about anxiety, if you have never experienced, if you've ever had mega anxiety, aka the kind where you have like one panic attack a week, if not more, that type of thing, we all know, I feel like this is now because of TikTok. Everyone likes to throw around the word cortisol, but it really does mess up the levels, the chemicals coursing through your body, in your brain, and this form of anxiety that Carmy specifically exhibits, it does intense amount of damage on your body, your psyche, and it wears you down physically. Like, you will feel it in your shoulders. You will be more tense. You're not healthy. Even if you're working out while doing it, like, you're not healthy. When your mental health is taking a toll, it therefore takes a toll on your physical health. So when all of this is going on, I can see how somehow you would miss something very obvious. The fact that your cousin losing his best friend, aka your brother, is a big deal. I could see how you would miss that in the midst of all of this tunnel vision and all of this stuff going on. Richie Bitchy just said, I felt like you resented me right at the time when the brother died. So Carm Parm goes, yeah, I did resent you, which, whoa, shocker. Okay, open and honest conversation. So he goes, yeah, I did resent you because you were a part of my family and you knew my brother better than I did. And you got to spend his last moments with him and you got to be with him and stuff. And I wasn't, I didn't get to be close with him like that. And you did. And you got to be a part of the family. And Richie just goes, no, you knew him. You knew him. And, first glance, you're like, oh, well, that's just sort of like a thing anyone would say. You're trying to comfort the other person by being like, no, you knew him. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. But if you want to look at it from another viewpoint, he's also kind of saying, no, you knew him the same way I knew him. Because if what we know about Mikey be true is Carmy said a really long time ago in season 1 or 2, he said, everyone was Mikey's best friend. Everyone thought that Mikey was their best friend. The way that Michael Borsato as a person in this universe was a highly social person who just sort of treated everybody like family. So everyone felt that way about him, which means that he was only showing one version of himself, the shiniest version. He's only showing his costume. He wasn't really showing everybody who he really was, because if he was showing everybody who he really was, then maybe people would have caught on that he was fixating on slew or slidle ideation. Maybe more people would have caught on about that and would have because if people had known, because here's the thing, about psychiatry. You have to evaluate your patients when they're dealing with suicidal ideation. You have to evaluate on a scale the likelihood that they are going to do it, right? I'm like talking in tongues, but I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. A psychiatrist will evaluate you based on how likely you are to do it. And then if you're like 10, you're going to do it, and they think you're going to do it, they're going to put you on psychiatric hold or whatever, right? No one put Michael on psychiatric hold. No one sent him to the psych ward. He jumped off a bridge. Very Secretariat, very BoJack Horseman vibe, okay? You know, if he had let people see that side of him, which is your deepest side and your truest self, then people would have interfered. Because Richie said that he knew something was wrong with him, and that's why he stayed at the Beef, which is just the original version of the Bear restaurant, if you're wondering, right? Because remember, this was originally Michael's restaurant, Carmen's brother's restaurant, right? I mean, if you're like an avid watcher of the show, you know these things, you don't need me to repeat them. But some people like have not revisited the show since it came out, or they don't remember details, so that's just why I'm reiterating stuff. But essentially, Richie says right now in this episode, he's like, I stayed at the Beef, you know, I thought I could watch him every day. And he's basically saying like, I didn't catch it. You know, I didn't manage to get him the help that he needed, and I didn't manage to Superman save him, right? And I don't blame Richie for that. I would never expect anyone to be able to save someone from that.
We are not mental health professionals. Not everyone is a doctor. So it can't fall on your shoulders to save people. And Richie tried his best because he didn't have the whole picture. What I'm trying to say is that Michael was a person. That's why I think the other side of it, aside from just the obvious point of Richie bitchy saying to Carm Parm, like, you did know your brother. On one hand, that line is just saying, you knew your brother, and he's saying it as like a comfort, because Carmy feels like he didn't know his brother, and that hurts, right? And so Richie's assuring him, but I'm trying to say that on the flip side, it's like, maybe he did know him, because maybe the version that Richie got of Michael is the version that everyone got. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. Maybe everyone saw that version of him because he didn't show his true self. And so maybe, even though Richie spent way more time with Michael, maybe Carmy knew the exact same version, and Richie didn't get any other sides to him. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. And
I do just want to say something that I just thought about, because I've always told you guys that I'm a master of a mastermind, or whatever the hell I usually say. But I just thought of something. So remember when I said earlier that I totally understand and I think it's valid that Carmy wants to leave to better himself? I actually am doing a 180 on that. And it's not for the reasons you think. So take a little road trip with me. When people get put in psychiatric inpatient, right? They get put on a routine. You have to eat 3 meals a day. You have to maybe go on a walk. You have to do this and that. You have to interact with other people. You're put in a routine that they have medically evaluated to be the best routine and options throughout the day that will get you healthy mentally and physically, right? And so if Carmy could recreate that as a sort of microcosm in his own life, like an outpatient type thing, replicating that, maybe that's better for him than just straight up leaving and going off to the Galapagos monk style. Because that's really what he's trying to do. He's trying to go full monk and just go zen out and do a whole eat, pray, love thing to try to, fix himself. But when he comes back to his real life, is he going to really be changed? Is he really going to be full on eat, pray, love, Julia Roberts? Or is he going to be the same because he didn't go and do anything? What I actually now think he needs to do is he needs to keep working at the restaurant. He needs to go to work, do his job, do good work, forget the Michelin star thing, which I think I've already said in previous video. Forget the Michelin star, that is not important. He needs to do just like a simple, I come to work, I work hard, I go home. He needs to be doing therapy at least once a week minimum.
he needs to be going to the group therapy, so he's essentially going to 2 therapies, and I think he needs to live with someone else. Because I think him living alone is really messing him up. So either he has a couple options, but really best case scenario, and obviously I like this idea, him and Sydney, roommates. And they were roommates. Following me? You following me? And I'm not even saying this on like a SydCarmy point of view. You know what, actually, if you guys don't like that idea, he can go live with Richie. Because Richie's also by himself. Think about that. Best case scenario, he can either move in with Sydney and they can be roommates and support each other, and it's going to be Santos Whitaker style. Okay, if you don't like the romance, let's do Santos Whitaker style. If you know who Santos and Whitaker are, you know Ball. Okay, and they were roommates. And by the way, Santos Whitaker style just means, like, platonic, like they're just going to be roommates and they're just going to be besties, okay? If you haven't seen The Pit, like, that is what I'm trying to say, right? Or he can move in with Richie and be with his family. Because I just think it's not healthy for him to be alone. So do you see what I'm trying to say? He can recreate the inpatient care outpatient. And that might be better for him than doing the whole eat, pray, love thing. He really needs to be around healthy people who are going to set him up for success, and he needs to feel loved and supported, and he needs to start talking to people. He does not need to go run off. I'm not saying he needs to stay and grind. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he needs to stay and he needs to reorient his whole life. Okay? He needs to be around the same people he's already around, doing the same thing he's already doing, which is cooking. But he needs to reorient the way he is operating his life because it is not healthy. We've done a lot of good work today. I'm finally back. If you're a first-time viewer, obviously you don't care, so I'm just going to shut up, but yeah. And I apologize that you had to listen to iPhone audio for a majority of this video, but like I said, if you're looking for top-tier quality, go over to Screen Rant, okay? And go ahead and subscribe. Okay, because this is not the place for that. Okay, fam, so I charged my iPad. I know that was unprofessional of me, it was embarrassing, but like I've been saying, like, this is not, Mr. Beast, okay, fam? Richie just said, he sort of told this mini story, which is unimportant, but he just told this little story about, Carmy's brother and him and some other guy, and he was like, when you were gone at the French Laundry or whatever, I'm adding these words in, of course. He's like, when you were gone at Le Cordon Bleu, on y va? Anyways, when you were gone, right, we were having this road trip and we were this and, we were standing in the sun. Scandal reference. Scandal! Anyways. And he's like, we were this and that. And he was like, that's how I assumed you felt when you were off cooking. When you're off cooking. I'm sorry. When you were off cooking, this is how I assumed you felt. This sort of happiness and contentness. And then Carmy's like, no, it wasn't like that at all. Let's be real. Carmy doesn't have any friends. Okay? Who are Carmy's friends? Name all of his friends. His friends are Sydney, Richie, Fack, and Sugar, and 3 out of those 4 people are related to him. We've already established, Carmy doesn't even check in on his sister half the time. Do you really think he has a bunch of friends that he's FaceTiming? No, he has no friends. He's a loser, okay? So that is why he wasn't having too much fun. Because he needs a support system, and this brings me back to the idea that he needs to create an inpatient type of atmosphere, outpatient. I'm telling you, is the way to go, and I'm standing 10 toes down on it. I'm standing 11 toes down on my idea. Okay, so I still haven't finished the episode, but it's like, this show is so well written that, like, every few lines you gotta say something about it. But Carmy just said, I don't know who I am outside of the kitchen.
But, like, honestly, I don't think, like, him doing a whole eat, pray, love and, removing the kitchen altogether is gonna make him feel any better. And this is something that I've sort of noticed in my own life. If you're lost and you take away all of the things that make you feel like yourself, that's not going to make you find yourself. Do you get, are you picking up what I'm putting down? If you love art, right, and you're a painter, and let's say you are fully now employed as a painter and you work on commission and you sell your art for thousands of dollars, and let's say you're burnt out, okay? Let's say you're like Miss Van Gogh and you're totally burnt out, okay? And you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this art stuff anymore. I'm exhausted. And you just stop painting. That's not going to make you feel any better. But to deprive yourself of the painting at all is not going to make you find yourself. It's going to make you even more lost. So for him to deprive himself of the cooking completely is not the move.
How do I pause it? Damn it. Okay, so there's only 5 minutes left of the episode, but hopefully 3 minutes of that are like the end credits because I'm kind of done. I mean, you guys know this. I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of Carm Parm. You know me? Like, here's the thing. When I watch a show, first season, I can take it. If the ships aren't happening. 4th season, no ship. It's kind of hurting my brain a little bit here. And the issue is not that I'm not getting SydCarmy. The issue is that I'm getting no romance at all. So, hey, I didn't sign up for this. And you could argue, okay, The Bear's not about romance. How many TV shows have you watched that had romantic pairings, regardless of if the show was about romance? So in season 5, this is sort of opening us up to, is Carmy actually going to leave? I mean, obviously not. The main character can't leave. Like, why are you rage baiting me, right? But, we will find out what happens. Will Carmy go on an eat, pray, love journey? Will he just kind of go back on his word and he just had a whole hissy fit for nothing? He's having a whole Yeah, meltdown. Having a whole meltdown for no reason. Being a little drama queen. Being a little prima donna. A little prima donna. So we will see. But I did want to talk about, is the bear overrated? You know what?
I think it's not overrated, but I do think that it has issues with consistency. That is what I will say. It has issues with consistency because I think they're trying to do too many things at once. They're delving into too many characters in like a non-interesting way. Like in season 3, it's kind of like they tried to give us a little glimpse of everyone's lives, but it's just not interesting enough. And maybe they're trying to be realistic, but it's like, you can be realistic, but you need to remember that this is a TV drama. I'm not here to watch Sugar give birth for 10 hours. Okay, if I wanted to watch someone be in labor for 10 hours, then I would go into a hospital. Hello? Like, let's be serious for a moment, okay? If I wanted to watch people, if I wanted to watch white people argue with each other for 40 hours straight, I would go to my family reunion. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not that the arguing is ever uninteresting. I'm just saying I think that the Bear is not overrated. The Bear is a phenomenally well-crafted and interesting show that has a lot of heart to it, very relatable, sometimes so realistic and relatable, like in Seven Fishes, that you just start getting heart palpitations, right? And I think it deserves all of the acclaim. I just think that they are not always completely consistent. And in the 3rd season, they just went, whoop, slow down, F1, slow down, F1, slow down. It's like when you're watching F1 and they're racing around the track and then they stop and they put the tires on for like under 60 seconds or whatever. That was what season 3 was. It's like they were putting the tires on. It's like, what are you doing? This is a completely different show. So at the end of the day, The Bear is not overrated. It is a very well-made show. It just has consistency issues, and they need to kind of figure out and map out what they're going to try to do in the next seasons, 5, 6, 7, whatever. I didn't mean to do that, but it happened, okay? What they're trying to do in the next few seasons and where that's going to go, and they need to decide. I just, look, what I look for in a TV show is that it's constantly interesting. I mean, I don't mean that in like a, brain-fried Subway Surfer half-screen, split-screen type thing. I just mean like, it needs to be interesting, okay? Am I going to want to tune in every week? Or am I going to be like, I'm sitting here and only the last 20 minutes are interesting? So that is really all I have to say on that. Okay, so I just finished the episode. You're like, fucking finally, you asshole. Why is it taking you 400 minutes to finish a 33-minute episode? But anyways, so last note, in the very end, Sugar comes out and she's like, guys, what's going on? And then Sydney's like, he's leaving the restaurant. And she kind of has this little silent communication with her little brother, and she's like, you're leaving? And he's like, yeah. And they do these little nods back and forth, and then she hugs him and she starts crying with no tears. Not gonna judge because I'm not a professional actress, but all right. What I want to say about that is that it's really sweet that his older sister is the only person out of these 3 people that has a reaction where they're not like, what the heck, Carmy, you can't leave. She just
Accepts it. And it's almost like she's been waiting for him to get his life together and leave the kitchen. It's like she's like proud of him in this moment. And I think that's really, really beautiful. And it's only something that a sister could articulate. So, overall, 10 out of 10 episode. I already said what I want to say about the show. Technically, this video was supposed to be a lot about SydCarmy, but I have my SydCarmy notes in the end. I'm basically going to put, just let you guys listen to a bunch of voice notes, 30-second voice notes, while I was watching the show for the first time last June. And they're all my SydCarmy spottings. So yeah, you can just go ahead and listen to that, or you can just stop watching this now. And, hopefully you don't hate me. And, yeah, okay, bye. Okay, bye.
SydCarmy comment, aka SydCarmy spotted. Okay. Serena Vanderwoodson spotted for 1 minute and 23 seconds into the final episode of season 4, episode 10. Carmy says, and I direct quote, "You didn't talk to me all service." And his tone is the same way that Gregory House would say, "You've been acting strange, Wilson," or would say, "You haven't talked to me all day, Wilson." What does that say? Coincidence? I think not. It's giving romantical.
Very important voice note right now. We are 12 minutes and 3 seconds into episode 10. And this is starting to sound like a love declaration. I am not joking, fam. It's starting to get Colin Bridgerton, Anthony Bridgerton, and Benedict Bridgerton up in here. It is feeling like Simon, last name, I don't remember, from Bridgerton. Because I'm telling you, he just said anything good that could ever happened when you walked in, whatever. I don't know what he's saying, but you know what I'm saying, okay? And I'm telling you, there is potential here for a love story. I am telling you right now, it is reading like a love confession. The words are not, but the sort of enunciation, the sort of tone, the undercurrents, it is reading like a love confession. Hear me out. 12 minutes and 3 seconds into the show. I'm on episode 8, and I just want to bookmark. I 100% like Claire now. I think her character fits into the show. She doesn't feel as manic pixie dreamy. I do really like her character. I want to emphasize and clarify that. However, I still don't think should be with Carmy, not because I don't think that they're a good pairing, because I think they're much better now, and they are cute together. However, the chemistry isn't 100% off the charts, and for that reason, I don't think they should be together. Just because the chemistry isn't incredible, make me swoon. It's just decent, and decent is not enough. Ergo. I have another comment to make, and this might be a little controversial, schmercial. I don't really care. Some people, my people who understand this will comprehend what I'm saying. Other people will be like, this is very off the rocket, but just to clarify, episode 10, 13 minutes, 55 seconds into the episode, when people do this and sort of line up their eggs in the basket so that they can make an exit, sometimes that means that they're pulling a Mikey. I'm sorry to say it. What's the right word? They're pulling a Neil Perry. Yeah, that's really what I want to say. They're pulling a Neil Perry. And yeah, so I can definitely interpret the scene in that way. The Carmy's sort of going down the same path as his brother. Obviously, I'm not insinuating that I think he's going to die, but so one could interpret it that way. Obviously, what he means in the scene is just that he wants to go a different route, sort of find his purpose in life, find happiness in something that's not the restaurant, since he's wrapped up so much of his emotional unwell-being in it and in that career. But one could interpret it in a deposed society type way. Just wanted to add that because I think it's interesting.
Okay, so another comment. We are on episode 10 minutes in. It's getting heated between Carm Parm and Sydney Maligny, and I'm starting to think that Carmy just has a stutter. I don't know if that is just Jeremy Allen's acting choice or what, for all his characters, or just this one. I know he didn't have a stutter in that wrestling movie I watched. That was really good. I don't remember Lip Gallagher having a stutter. I did think it was just sort of how he talks. Some people do talk like that, but now I just genuinely think he sort of has a little bit of a stutter. Once I get through this scene and whatnot, I will sort of figure out and delve into why he's trying to leave and get into his psyche again, which hurts my brain. Okay, bye.
Each in its own way was unforgettable. It would be difficult to roam. By all means, roam. I will cherish my visit here in memory as long as I